Recently, I released a video about the pain I've been having in my trachea and also the extreme difficulty I'm having exchanging out my tracheostomy tube. Now, thank you so much to each and every person who has responded on the video, either in comments, emails, messages via Instagram or Facebook. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for reaching out, and thank you for all your suggestions. I wanted to address a couple things because things are not always clear in my videos, or due to editing, things get missed. So first of all, let me explain a couple things. People saw in my videos that they didn't think I was putting lubricant jelly onto the tracheostomy tube before inserting that, and that was causing the difficulty inserting the tracheostomy tube. I'm sorry about that. During the editing process, I was just trying to show the insertion of the tracheostomy tube. I did not show all the steps leading up to the tracheostomy tube. If you've gone back to all my tracheostomy tube exchange videos, I always put lubricant jelly. Yes, I have lubricant jelly, and yes, I have lubricant jelly. And I just want to give a quick shout out. Thank you to Russ. He just sent me some more lubricant jelly. Long story about that, but thank you, Russ. I do need it because I am almost out of this lubricant jelly, which I bought way back in 2017 when I first got my tracheostomy tube. So next tracheostomy tube, I'm going to be using brand new lubricant jelly. Thank you, Russ. Another thing people thought that I might be having issues with my tracheostomy tube is that the tracheostomy tube might be rubbing, and that might be causing a lot of issues. They suggested I use these split gauze. So these are split gauze. I used to use these when I first got my tracheostomy tube. However, my tracheostomy site is basically dry, except when I first got my tracheostomy tube. It did have some drainage, but basically after the first month, it doesn't leak at all. Like, I can put my hand like this, perfectly dry. There's just nothing there. So what I found with using these, because it's dry, and then having this, and then having the tracheostomy site, which is dry, and things, you do move and this rubs and stuff, that I found that this actually just rubbed against my skin and actually caused blisters and irritation, and it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. This caused my tracheostomy site to bleed, and also I'm very sensitive to chemicals. Unfortunately, these are bleached, and there's other chemicals on these, and that really caused a sensitivity and allergic reaction, and it was terrible. I stopped wearing those, and now my tracheostomy site is dry. It's clean. Doctors have told me don't bother wearing them, because if you put something dry like this and then start rubbing, you're going to get a lot of irritation. And that's exactly what happened when I was wearing these, just because the tracheostomy tube naturally rubs, and it's dry. There's no solution or liquid. There's no reason to wear this. So I don't think not wearing this is causing the issues. I think there's some other issues. So continuing on, some other comments people had. Someone commented that they thought my tracheostomy tube might need to be exchanged out for silicone bivona like this. Now, I actually do have the silicone bivona. It's actually really old. I used this back in 2017. This was my very first tube that I used after having surgery. So the surgery, they used the big, bulky, old Shiley trach tube. And then my first tracheostomy tube exchange, I was changed out to the bivona. The bivona is silicone. It has this tube, or the cuff, which lies completely flat. Yay! And it's really easy to insert. However, these are made from silicone, and I am extremely allergic to silicone. Yes, it's not only this tracheostomy tube, it's just silicone in general. I can't have it in my airway. It caused my airway to swell up, and it caused a lot of pain and irritation. Oh, it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. So unfortunately, I cannot use these silicone tracheostomy tubes. If you want to see my airways really inflamed, put one of these in. I start coughing. I have a lot of mucus. Oh, my tracheostomy site will just start to drain like crazy. Oh, it is not good. So I am not going to be using bivona silicone tracheostomy tube, even though this would be a great solution, because basically there's like no ridge for the cuff. It's smooth like this. It'd be great. It just easily drop in. But I actually had this issue with the silicone is it actually worked its way out, and all the way out, because my body absolutely hated the tracheostomy tube. So I cannot use the silicone Somebody else had mentioned that even though I have a smaller size tracheostomy tube, I should not insert it. I'm going to just comment a little bit about that. If you can't get your tracheostomy tube in, please feel free to put the smaller size tracheostomy tube in. You can change sizes with tracheostomy tubes. I have done it. I actually originally used a larger size tracheostomy tube. They switched into a smaller size tracheostomy tube. Then they switched me back to a larger size tracheostomy tube. And now I'm back to this size tracheostomy tube, and I've been there for a very, very long time. You can go between tracheostomy tube sizes, one size up or one size down. That is possible. It takes a little bit of force. It's helpful if you have a strong, one of those big burly men that are like, oh, I'm here to change your tracheostomy tube. Those are the people that you really want to do that. And you might think that's really cruel, but that's actually how they do most children's tracheostomy tubes. As they grow, they need larger sizes. And a lot of times they're just like, hold still. Bigger size tracheostomy tube. So I have had that done. So it's not the end of the world if I use a smaller size tracheostomy tube. It's just inconvenient because I have a hard time breathing without my ventilator with the smaller size tracheostomy tube. So I don't want to go down that route if I don't have to, but if I have to, I will put the smaller size tracheostomy tube in, and it shouldn't be a big deal to go back to my regular size tracheostomy tube. However, with my current situation, it might be a little bit more difficult, but that's just how things are going to be. Other things. Oh, thank you. I have a list here. So someone else asked about my PICC line. Do I have issues with my PICC line working its way out of the insertion site? The answer is yes. My body just likes to work the PICC line out. I've been dealing with that for many, many years. So yes, I do have issues with my PICC line just migrating out of the insertion site. And the PICC line is sturdily, is that a word, sturdily? Has these little flaps that anchor it, and it's very secure, but still that PICC line just works its way out, and sometimes it's just all curved and weird. It does work its way out, and well, it happens. So the person asked if that might be the issue with this. My body might be rejecting my tracheostomy tube, and that has crossed my mind. Like I said, with the silicone tracheostomy tube, my body actually just rejected it. I'm thinking my body might start rejecting this tracheostomy tube. Now, there is another tracheostomy tube I can switch to. It is called the Tracho. Unfortunately, getting the Tracho is really complicated. Tracho does not sell in the United States. They sell to a third party. Then you have to buy from the third party to get it. Unfortunately, my medical equipment company is not able to get the Tracho. So in order to get the Tracho, all the tracheostomy tubes would be 100% out of my own pocket. And it's just really a complicated process to get. I have gotten a Tracho in the past, and it was a lot of paperwork for my doctor. She had to submit everything. And yeah, it was very complicated. And she basically told me, you need to get this through your medical equipment company. And if not, I will not go through this process every single time you need a tracheostomy tube. It's just a lot of work. So I have tried the Tracho. I didn't have a lot of good success with the Tracho, but that was way back in 2017, 2018, sometime in that time frame. I didn't have a lot of good luck with that. It didn't work for me, but now that we're in the future, maybe they might have a different tracheostomy tube. Tracho does have several different tracheostomy tubes, different styles. I might have been using the wrong style. So that is a possibility to go with the Tracho. But again, it's kind of a complicated, complex process, and I really like the Shiley. The Shiley has been working for me, so if I can stay with the Shiley, let's stay with the Shiley. But Tracho will remain on the back burner if we need to change out the tracheostomy tube to a different type. Someone else mentioned that they thought my tracheostomy tube ties might be too tight. I'm going to address that because I have issues with tracheostomy tubes. My anatomy is really weird, and this is about the tightness I need. I can get about 2 fingers. And really, you shouldn't have it any tighter than this, because if you put the tracheostomy tube too tight, it'll actually flip the tracheostomy tube. So like this, it'll actually flip the tracheostomy tube and it'll dig. So let's try to do this. This is your tracheal wall, and it'll dig, or like this. Maybe that's better. It'll dig into the tracheal wall. I actually had this happen right when I got my tracheostomy tube. I was having a lot of pain in my back, and they weren't sure what it was. And then a respiratory therapist figured out my tracheostomy ties were too tight, and it was causing the tube to not sit properly in my airway, and it was causing a lot of pain. So this is about as tight as they really want it. So I basically fit two fingers on each side. It's not real tight, but it's not loose. I don't think it's loose. Most of the respiratory therapists put it around this tightness when they do it. So putting my tracheostomy tube ties tighter is not good. It'll cause the tracheostomy tube to flip, dig into my airway, and it'll cause a lot of back pain. And then, because like I said, I have kind of a weird anatomy for tracheostomy tubes. I had my tracheostomy tube, my very first one that I had, actually dug into my trachea and caused a lot of issues: breathing, shortness of breath, respiratory issues. So we had to get a shorter size tracheostomy tube, and then we have to make sure it is not too tight, because if it's too tight, it flips and digs into my tracheal wall. I think that's everything. Oh, one more thing. Someone asked, what kind of specialist did I see? I'm sorry, I did not include that in my original video. I saw an otolaryngologist or an ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor. I'm sorry, I made that omission in the first video, but that's the specialist I went to see. And I'm hoping an ear, nose, and throat doctor is the doctor who can help me this time. However, this ear, nose, and throat doctor, the specialist I saw, this doctor is very far away from me. And you say, why? Why don't you go to somebody locally? I tried, and I was told by the ear, nose, and throat doctor, he was the head of a clinic that has about 12 or 15 ear, nose, and throat doctors. I was told that ear, nose, and throat doctors do not deal with tracheostomy tubes. They will change them, but any complications have to go to a pulmonologist. I went to my pulmonologist, and my pulmonologist said, no, that's ear, nose, and throat. So that's kind of the limbo I've been in, that nobody wants to address this. So taking everything into consideration, a lot of you guys had some great suggestions that it might need dilation, it might need wound debridement, it just might need that granulation tissue or whatever tissue, scar tissue, that might need to be burned off or cleaned away. So I probably need a specialist to do that. I am still trying to get in to see my pulmonologist. My pulmonologist is booked. And no, I can't really say, I'm an emergency, because a lot of the people at the pulmonology clinic are emergencies. They have COPD, they have asthma, and they really have like medical emergencies, and they need to see the doctor, or they're recovering from pneumonia and have complications. They need urgent appointments. I do think this is something that needs to be addressed, but I'm not one of those people that's like, doctor, you need to see me right now. I don't think it's that much of an emergency. Which brings me to one more thing. People told me to go to the emergency department. I'm going to try to say this gently. I have a big issue with people using emergency departments for things which are not truly life-threatening emergencies. Unfortunately, people get cuts, people get scrapes. People have things that happen and are not emergencies, and they're just thinking, it's easier to go to the emergency department than follow up with my doctor. So they go to the emergency department and backlog the emergency department. Growing up, we were always told, are you going to die? If the answer was no, you go to urgent care, you go to your primary care, you go to somebody else and not the emergency department. So with that said, I am not going to go to the emergency department. This is not a life or death situation. If I change out my tracheostomy tube and can't get the new one in, and if I can't get the smaller size tracheostomy tube in, yes, that would warrant to be an urgent, life-threatening emergency that I think I would need to go to the emergency department to get their assistance to try to get the tracheostomy tube back in. But I have a tracheostomy tube in my airway. I think we're doing okay at the moment. So I'm going to continue to try to get in to see my pulmonologist to see what he suggests. He might know a surgeon, but going back to 3 years ago when I was having issues with my trachea, he suggested I went to this ear, nose, and throat clinic, and they were the ones that said, oh no, we don't do anything with tracheostomy tube complications only. We will only change out your tracheostomy tube. So it looks like I'm probably going to have to go see the specialist. I'm probably not going to be able to see that specialist because I felt as though she was really uncomfortable with tracheostomy tube complications. She's like, I can change tracheostomy tubes, but then asking things about tracheostomy tube complications, she really seemed uncomfortable. So I don't feel comfortable going back to her knowing that I now have a tracheostomy tube complication. So what I'm going to probably have to do is call up to that clinic. They have multiple ear, nose, and throat doctors, and I'm going to have to try to explain my situation and try to find a doctor who can see me or who's knowledgeable about this. It might take some time. It might take some research. It might take going to different clinics to try to find somebody that can do tracheostomy tube complications, because as history has proven to me, ear, nose, and throat doctors love to change tracheostomy tubes, but to actually do surgery is not so easy. And then I'm also more complicated because I'm using a ventilator. They can't just take out my tracheostomy tube and be like, let's do some procedures, because I need my ventilator to breathe. And that has caused complications in the past, because if they're going to take out my tracheostomy tube and do some sort of procedure, I need to be intubated. I need to be on life support. And yeah, that's going to require additional working with. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there because it provides a little bit more complications versus, I know sometimes they can just do things in the office, but that's not really going to work so well for me if they're going to do something around my tracheostomy site. I'm going to need a way to breathe, because I don't breathe so well without my tracheostomy tube, without the ventilator pushing air into my airways. So I'd like to thank everybody for your insight, and I think I'm going to try to get at your nose and throat doctor who knows something about tracheostomy tube complications. I think that's my next path. I could possibly get a bronchoscopy through my pulmonologist. I don't think that's going to be very productive, because history has shown me they can do the bronchoscopy, but if they find anything, the pulmonologist said he can't do anything. So why have a doctor do a procedure if he can't do anything, and then I'm going to have to see somebody else? And quite frankly, if I'm seeing a new doctor, a new ear, nose, and throat doctor or surgeon or whoever I'm going to end up seeing, I think they really want to see the airway and see what the procedure is going to need to entail if I do need surgery. So I think if I want to have a scope of bronchoscopy, I think it's wise to wait until I see the specialist that can do tracheostomy tube complications, because that specialist is going to have better insight than just trying to get something with my pulmonologist, just to be told, you need to go see somebody. Kind of a waste. And I try not to do excessive procedures, excessive anesthesia, excessive sedation. I try to stay clear from that, just because it's stress on my body. Invasive procedures are stressful. It takes me a long time to recover from those. And if I can reduce my exposure to that, that is what I'm going to do. So thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe down below. Please also remember to comment and share. It really helps my YouTube channel. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week. Bye-bye.